Welcome to Heart Over Gold, the channel where love, kindness, and humanity shine brighter than any fortune. In today's story, Henry Hollis, a successful CEO, had it all except the family he longed for. After being told he was infertile, his relationship with Jennifer ended. Years later, Jennifer returned with two little girls, his daughters. At that moment, Henry realized that family isn't defined by biology, but by love and connection. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments and keep up with our latest stories. Henry Hollis was a name that echoed through boardrooms and luxury lounges. As the CEO of one of the most successful tech firms in the world, he was the epitome of success. His days were filled with high-stakes deals, meetings with influential clients, and speeches at conferences. To the outside world, Henry had it all: wealth, fame, and power. But beneath the polished exterior was a man who had one silent, aching desire: a family of his own. Years ago, Henry had fallen deeply in love with a woman named Jennifer. Their relationship had been full of passion, dreams, and plans for a future. Together they talked about building a life, having children, and growing old with one another. However, life had its own plans. Henry had always been a little distracted by his work, but he and Jennifer had both dreamed of starting a family. After years of trying to conceive, they sought medical advice. After a battery of tests and visits, two specialists, Henry received the heart-wrenching news: he was infertile. His dreams of having children were shattered. The diagnosis hit Henry hard. His relationship with Jennifer began to strain under the weight of the news. He could see how deeply hurt she was by the situation, and while he tried to assure her that they could find another way, the pressure of trying to make the dream of having children come true began to tear them apart. Slowly, they drifted apart, and one day, Jennifer left. Unable to cope with the pain and disappointment, Henry buried himself in his work, using his success as a shield against the sorrow he felt in his heart. For years, he avoided relationships, telling himself that love wasn't for him. His wealth and status couldn't replace the family he had dreamed of, but he had no idea how to move forward. One rainy afternoon, years after their separation, Henry sat at his desk, staring out the window of his sleek penthouse office. His mind wandered back to the days with Jennifer, to the laughter they shared and the hopes they had for the future. He thought of the children they had dreamed of, the house full of joy and noise they had once envisioned. But now, all of that felt like a distant fantasy. Just then, there was a soft knock on his office door. "Mr. Hollis, you have a visitor," his assistant called softly from the doorway. He looked up, startled. He wasn't expecting anyone. The last thing he wanted was another meeting, but the door opened, and in walked someone he never thought he would see. His heart skipped a beat as he stood up, his mind racing. She looked different, more mature, more confident, but there was something in her eyes that made his pulse quicken. "Jennifer, what are you doing here?" he asked, his voice betraying a mix of emotions. Jennifer smiled, a soft and tender smile, one he remembered well. She held something in her arms, two small, giggling girls. He blinked, his confusion evident. "Henry," she said, her voice warm yet tinged with a hint of nervousness, "I never wanted to hurt you. I was scared, and I didn't know how to handle everything back then. But I want you to meet someone." Henry stared at the two little girls, their faces beaming with innocence. One had brown eyes like Jennifer's, and the other had Henry's jet-black hair. "These are your daughters, Henry," Jennifer said gently. "I had them after we separated. It wasn't easy, and I never wanted to burden you with it. But I think it's time you know the truth." Henry felt like the ground had been ripped out from under him. His heart raced. He couldn't comprehend what Jennifer was saying. He had been told he couldn't have children, that it was biologically impossible. And yet, here were two little girls who by all logic were his. Jennifer continued, "After we broke up, I thought about everything we had talked about, the family we wanted, and even though you weren't a part of their lives, I raised them with love and affection. But they have always known about you, Henry. I've never kept them from you." The girls took a few tentative steps toward Henry, and the older one, a girl with curly hair, reached out her hand. "Hi, Daddy," she said shyly, her voice sweet and unassuming. Henry's breath caught in his throat. "Daddy." His heart swelled with a rush of emotion: love, regret, joy, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. He knelt down, his mind racing, and took the little girl's hand. "Hi, sweetheart," he said softly, his voice cracking. The other little girl, with wide, curious eyes, came forward and climbed into his lap. Henry held her tightly, his arms enveloping her in a warmth he hadn't known he was capable of offering. It felt so right, so natural, as though these girls had always belonged with him. Jennifer sat down across from him, watching the scene unfold. I know this is a lot to take in, but they need to know who you are, and you deserve to know them too. They're your daughters, Henry, and they love you, even if you don't know them yet. Henry's eyes welled up with tears as he looked at the two girls, their faces full of innocence and hope. He had always wanted to be a father, but he had thought that dream was forever out of reach. But in this moment, he realized that love and family weren't defined by biology. They were built on connection, on shared moments, and the willingness to open one's heart. For the first time in years, Henry didn't feel alone. He felt whole. He had been given a second chance, a chance to be a father, to love and care for these little girls, and to build a family full of kindness, warmth, and unconditional love. Thank you, Jennifer, Henry said, his voice filled with gratitude. I don't know what to say. This is a gift I never expected. Jennifer smiled softly. You don't have to say anything, just love them. That's all they need. And from that moment on, Henry's life was transformed. He became a father, not through the traditional means he had once imagined, but through love, compassion, and the willingness to embrace the unexpected. The little girls brought joy and laughter back into his world. And with Jennifer's support, they built a new kind of family, one that was stronger than any obstacle they had faced. Henry's heart swelled with a love he never thought possible, and as he watched the girls run through the park, laughing and chasing after one another, he knew that no amount of wealth or success could ever compare to the simple joy of being a father. Life had given him the greatest gift of all, love, kindness, and a second chance at the family he had always dreamed of. Henry found himself embracing a new chapter in his life, one he never could have predicted. The girls, Maya, the older one with the curly hair, and Lily, the younger one with sparkling eyes, became his world. Every day with them was filled with new adventures, laughter, and lessons that no business deal or corporate success could ever teach him. As the weeks passed, Henry was drawn into their lives in ways he never expected. He took them to the park, where they ran and played, their voices ringing out like sweet music in his ears. Maya loved to climb the jungle gym, always challenging herself to go higher, while Lily adored the swings, her giggles echoing across the playground as Henry pushed her higher and higher. At first, it was awkward. Henry didn't know how to be a father. He didn't know the first thing about playing dolls or giving bedtime stories. But Maya and Lily didn't expect perfection. They simply wanted him there, laughing with them, holding their hands, and showing them that he cared. They didn't need a biological connection to see him as their father. All they needed was his presence and his love. Henry's bond with them grew stronger with each passing day. One evening, after a day full of running errands and taking the girls to a birthday party, they all sat together on the living room floor, playing a game. Henry had never felt so at peace, so fulfilled. As Maya explained the rules of a game that he had no idea how to play, he couldn't help but smile at the way she talked with such confidence, like she had always known him. Lily snuggled close, leaning her head against his chest. That it was in that moment that Henry realized something profound. He didn't need to have been there for every milestone in their lives to be their father. He didn't need to be there from the very beginning to build a family. The love that was growing between them didn't come from bloodlines or genetic connections. It came from his willingness to open his heart to them, and from the pure, unconditional love they so freely gave. Back one evening, as they sat together on the couch, Jennifer returned from a work trip. She entered the room quietly and observed the scene. Henry, Maya, and Lily all huddled together, laughing as they played with a set of toy animals. It was a scene of warmth, comfort, and connection. Jennifer looked at Henry with soft eyes. "You're doing great," she said, her voice full of appreciation. "I can see how much you love them. They've changed your life, haven't they?" Henry looked up at her, and for the first time in a long time, he felt a deep sense of gratitude, not just for the girls, but for Jennifer as well. She had given him the gift of fatherhood, a gift he had longed for but never thought he could have. He nodded, his eyes filled with emotion. "They've changed everything, Jennifer. I never knew how much love I had inside me until they came into my life. I don't care about the past anymore. This is what matters." Jennifer smiled, and the unspoken bond between them was clear. They had both experienced so much pain and heartache, but they had found a way to heal through their shared love for the girls. Henry's heart swelled as he thought about how far they had come. The struggles and challenges of the past no longer held power over him. He wasn't the same man who had once been consumed by ambition and regret. Now he was a father, and his heart was open to the infinite possibilities that love could bring. As the years went on, Henry and Jennifer worked together as co-parents, ensuring that Maya and Lily grew up in a home filled with love, stability, and understanding. They may not have been a typical family, but they were a family, and that was all that mattered. Henry's life became a delicate balance of managing his business empire and being the father his daughters deserved. He learned to slow down, to savor the small moments. He didn't need to climb the corporate ladder anymore. He found joy in the simple things, helping Maya with her homework, tucking Lily into bed, and having dinner around the table, talking about their day. One evening, as Henry was tucking Maya and Lily into bed, Maya looked up at him with a serious expression. "Daddy," she said, her small hand clutching his, "can you promise us something?" Henry, always ready to reassure his daughters, smiled. "Of course, sweetheart, what is it?" "Promise you'll always be here," Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Promise you'll never leave us." Henry's heart tightened at the thought of ever leaving them. He leaned down and kissed her forehead, brushing away a stray curl from her face. "I promise," he said, his voice steady and full of emotion. "I will always be here. I'll never leave you. Maya, you and Lily are my everything." Tears welled up in his eyes as he kissed Lily goodnight, holding her close for just a moment longer. As he stepped out of their room and closed the door softly behind him, he paused in the hallway, his heart overflowing with love. The family he had always dreamed of was right here, with him. It wasn't the picture-perfect version of family he had once imagined, but it was better, so much better. Through love, kindness, and compassion, Henry had found something far more precious than anything money could buy. As the years passed, Henry became a man known not only for his business acumen but for his unwavering dedication to his daughters. His colleagues and friends marveled at the transformation in him. He was no longer the aloof CEO who cared only for profit. He was the devoted father who made time for the people who truly mattered, the ones who filled his life with laughter and love. Henry knew that his wealth could never compare to the richness he had found in the love of his daughters. And as he looked at them, growing into strong, beautiful young women, he realized that the love he had given them had been returned 1,000 times over. He wasn't just a father by title, he was a father by heart, and that was more than enough. As the years continued to pass, Henry's life was transformed in ways he hadn't even dreamed of. He had found something far more profound than just a family. He had found a deep connection to his own heart, to a sense of peace that had eluded him for so long. Through the love of Maya and Lily, he was rediscovering the world, the noise of the corporate world, the ceaseless pressure, the deals, the competition. It all felt so distant now. What mattered most was the quiet moments with his daughters, the laughter that filled his home, and the warmth of Jennifer's quiet support. One of the moments that stands out the most in Henry's memory was the first time Maya had a lead role. In the school play, Maya had always been a confident child, but the thought of her performing in front of a crowd made Henry's heart race with nerves. Despite his external calm, he remembered feeling a strange mix of pride and nervous anticipation as he sat in the crowded auditorium, waiting for the play to begin. When Maya stepped onto the stage, her little face glowing under the spotlight, Henry felt like his heart might leap out of his chest. She was dressed as a princess, and she stood tall, confidently delivering her lines. Maya had inherited Jennifer's poise and his own determination. As the play continued, Henry's eyes never left her. He couldn't believe that this little girl, the one he had only just met a few years ago, was now standing there, capturing the audience's attention with every word. His chest swelled with pride, and as she took her final bow, he cheered louder than anyone else, clapping his hands in sheer joy. After the play, Henry rushed backstage, his face beaming with a smile as Maya ran to him, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Daddy, did you hear how I did?" she asked, her voice full of joy. "I saw and heard everything," Henry said, lifting her up into his arms and spinning her around. "You were amazing, Maya. You're a star." Maya laughed and hugged him tightly. "I couldn't have done it without you being there, Daddy." It was in that moment that Henry realized how much of an impact he had on their lives just by being present. He had never been a father who was absent or too busy. He was right there, cheering them on, supporting them in every way he could. And in turn, Maya and Lily were growing up in a home full of encouragement, love, and belief in themselves. But not every moment was as simple as a school play or a day at the park. Raising two daughters, Henry soon realized, came with its own set of challenges. As Maya and Lily grew older, they started asking difficult questions about their biological mother, about their father's past, about why their family looked different from others. There were days when Henry was unsure of how to explain everything to them. One evening, as they sat around the dinner table, Maya asked a question that had been on her mind for a long time. "Daddy, why didn't you and Mummy live together when I was little?" she asked, her voice tentative. Henry set down his fork, his mind racing for the right words. Jennifer had been open with the girls about the divorce, but Henry knew that, as they got older, they would need a deeper understanding. He looked at Jennifer, who gave him a supportive nod. They had agreed early on that they would be honest with the girls, but at the same time, they would be careful not to let the complexities of their past hurt them. Henry took a deep breath and spoke softly. "Well, sweetheart, when I first met your mum, we both dreamed of having a family, but sometimes, life doesn't go the way we expect. I wasn't able to have children the way we thought I could, and that made both your mum and I sad. We both wanted to have you in our lives, and even though we didn't stay together, we always loved you very much. And now look, we're all here together, and we're a family." Maya looked up at him with wide eyes. "But I don't understand. I thought you couldn't have kids." Henry smiled gently, his heart aching a little at how deeply Maya was processing this. "That's right, sweetie. I was told I couldn't have children, but life has a funny way of surprising us. Your mum and I didn't know that there were other ways our family could be complete, and sometimes, love brings things together in ways we don't expect." The conversation lingered, but it was a turning point for all of them. Maya was beginning to understand that families were not always what society expected them to be. And for Henry, it was a powerful realization that the family he had now was perfect in its own unique way, one built on love, not genetics. Though their romantic relationship had ended years ago, Henry and Jennifer's connection remained strong, especially as they navigated raising their daughters together. The support they gave each other in those early days, after the shock of the infertility diagnosis, was the foundation for the peaceful and respectful co-parenting relationship they had built. There were moments when Henry was grateful for Jennifer's presence in his life, when she would step in with just the right words or the right gesture to calm his nerves. One such instance occurred when Henry was facing a tough decision at work, one that could either make or break his company. He was losing sleep over the pressure and stress of making the right call. Jennifer knew Henry, probably better than anyone else, and she could see the toll it was taking on him. "You're not alone in this, Henry," Jennifer had said one evening, as they sat in the kitchen after the girls had gone to bed. "You've always been there for the girls. Now let us be here for you. You're doing a great job. Just remember that." Her words were like a balm to his weary soul. As a father, there were times when he felt overwhelmed by the weight of responsibility. He wasn't just running a company, he was shaping the lives of two little girls who depended on him, who looked to him for guidance and love. But knowing that Jennifer was there, that they could continue to co-parent together with mutual respect and care, made all the difference. "Thanks, Jennifer," Henry said quietly, his voice filled with appreciation. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Jennifer gave him a soft smile, the years of shared experience evident in the way they communicated without needing to say much. "We're in this together, always." As the years continued to pass, Henry began to realize something incredible. His relationship with Maya and Lily was built on moments of pure love and presence. He didn't have to be perfect, and he didn't need to give them the perfect life. What mattered was that he was there for them always. Henry had built his empire from the ground up, but nothing he had ever achieved came close to the joy he found in seeing his daughters grow. He loved watching them develop their own personalities, seeing them become strong, independent young women with compassionate hearts, and in every moment, from the first steps they took to the first day of high school, he was right there, supporting them. On the night of Maya's high school graduation, Henry sat in the audience with tears in his eyes as he watched her walk across the stage to receive her diploma. He couldn't believe how much time had passed, how much his life had changed since that day in his office when he had first met his daughters. Maya had grown into a confident young woman, someone who was ready to take on the world. As she approached him after the ceremony, Henry opened his arms wide. "You did it," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Maya smiled and hugged him tightly. "We did it, Daddy," she whispered. "You were there every step of the way." And in that moment, Henry knew that his life had been more than just a series of business triumphs. His greatest legacy would be the love he had built with Maya and Lily, the family that had once seemed impossible but had become everything he ever needed. Together, they were a family, and no amount of wealth or success could ever change the fact that, in the end, love was the most powerful force of all. As time passed, Henry's heart was growing in ways he had never imagined. He had fallen deeply in love with Maya and Lily, yes, but there was another kind of love that was quietly reawakening in him, passionate, profound, and undeniably transformative. And this love, though unexpected, was the one he had never truly let go of his love for Jennifer. Years after their separation, Henry found that his feelings for Jennifer had not disappeared. In fact, the love he once thought was buried beneath the pain of their past had returned, tender yet fierce. It had taken him a while to realize it, but as the girls grew, as they shared more family moments, it became undeniable. He was still in love with her. The quiet realization one summer evening, when the sun was setting over their backyard, Henry was standing outside, looking out over the garden. He could hear Maya and Lily's laughter coming from inside, as they helped Jennifer prepare dinner. He could feel the warmth of the evening breeze, and yet, it was the warmth of their presence that touched him more than anything else. Jennifer had been an integral part of their lives, and her bond with the girls was undeniable. He had watched her over the years, watched how she had flourished in her role as their mother, how she made the impossible seem effortless, and how she still carried herself with the quiet strength and grace he had always admired. His thoughts wandered to the past when they were together. Jennifer had been his rock, his best friend, the one he trusted with everything. They had shared their dreams, their fears, and their deep connection. Over time, that connection had morphed into something more than he could articulate. He was no longer just the man who had fathered her children. He was, perhaps, still the man she loved in some way. And that feeling was growing. Henry stood in the silence for a moment, considering the way Jennifer had supported him so selflessly. He remembered their late-night conversations after the girls had fallen asleep. How they would laugh, how they would talk about everything and nothing. He had missed the warmth of her presence in his life, and it became painfully clear to him, in that moment, that the love he had once thought he had lost had simply been buried, waiting to be rekindled. He turned toward the house, his heart racing. He knew what he had to do. The moment of confession that night, after the girls had gone to bed, Jennifer and Henry sat together on the porch, the soft glow of the moonlight casting a silvery hue on everything around them. The night was peaceful, the air cool, and there was a certain stillness between them, as if the world was holding its breath. Henry knew that this moment would define so much. He could no longer keep his feelings hidden. The connection between him and Jennifer was too strong, too real to ignore. And though they had built a beautiful, functioning family together, there was a part of him, perhaps the most important part, that had always longed for more. More with her. Jennifer, he began softly, his voice shaky with emotion. I don't know how to say this, but I need you to hear me. These years with you and the girls have been the best years of my life. And somewhere, along the way, I realized that I never stopped loving you. Jennifer turned to him, her eyes wide, her breath catching as if she had been waiting for these words for a long time. She didn't say anything at first, just looked at him as though searching his face for any sign of doubt. But Henry was sure, now sure of what he wanted, of what he needed. I know we've been through a lot, and I don't want to disrespect the life we've built or the incredible bond we have as parents, but I can't help how I feel. Being with you, being in this family, it's made me realize that I've never truly gotten over you. I love you, Jennifer. I always have. The silence that followed was heavy, but it wasn't the uncomfortable silence of awkwardness. It was a silence of deep understanding. Jennifer's eyes softened, and she reached out to take his hand, a gentle yet powerful connection passing between them. Her voice was quiet but filled with emotion. I never stopped loving you either, Henry, she said, her voice trembling with a vulnerability that took him by surprise. But I thought that ship had sailed. I thought we had both moved on, and I didn't want to complicate things for the girls. We've come so far, and I never wanted to disrupt the peace we've created. Henry's heart swelled at her words, at the raw honesty between them. He had feared that she had forgotten the deep bond they had once shared, but hearing her say those words made him realize that the love between them was still very much alive. There had always been a spark, even when they were apart, and in that moment it felt like it had never gone out. He leaned in closer, his breath mingling with hers, his heart pounding in anticipation. The air between them was thick with unspoken desires, and before either of them could stop it, their lips met, tentative at first, as if they were both testing the waters, but quickly deepening into something more urgent, more passionate. The kiss was electric, full of all the years of longing, regret, and hope. Henry's hand cupped her face, his thumb gently brushing her cheek as if he couldn't believe this was really happening. Jennifer's arms wrapped around him, pulling him closer, her body responding to his as if it had been waiting for this moment. It was a kiss that spoke of everything they had shared, love, loss, growth, and the deep connection that had always existed between them. As they pulled back for a moment, breathless and wide-eyed, Henry whispered, I don't want to let you go, Jennifer. I've realized that we don't have to stay apart anymore. We can build something new together, a new chapter. For us, for the girls. Jennifer's eyes were glistening with unshed tears, but there was a smile on her lips, a smile of hope. I want that too, Henry. I've always wanted that. From that night on, everything changed. Henry and Jennifer began to navigate a new kind of relationship. One built not just on their shared love for their daughters, but on the undeniable passion and connection that still existed between them. It was a love that had been tested by time and distance, but it had never truly faded. They learned how to blend their old love with the new love they had cultivated as parents, creating something beautiful, something deep. They took their time, allowing the love to grow slowly, like a garden they were both tending to with patience and care. They shared moments of laughter, stolen kisses in the kitchen, quiet evenings spent talking about their dreams, both old and new. Henry learned to show his affection openly again, not just through words, but through gestures, through the touch of her hand in his, through the way he would look at her when she wasn't paying attention, reminding her that she was still everything to him. Their love was not just a flame rekindled. It was a wildfire, wild and free, burning brighter than ever before. Together they began to build a life filled with passion, tenderness, and a deep understanding of each other. They no longer saw their past as a mistake or something that needed to be forgotten. They saw it as the foundation of everything they were now. And as they stood side by side, watching Maya and Lily grow, learning about their own passions and desires, Henry realized that he had the best of both worlds. He had the love of his daughters, the deep bond of friendship and respect with Jennifer, and the kind of passion that made his heart feel alive. They had come full circle, and this time, nothing at all was going to take their love away. They were, at last, a family complete, not just by blood, but by choice, by love, and by the kind of passion that made everything feel possible. Together they had everything they needed. As the days turned into months, Henry and Jennifer found their bond deepening in ways they hadn't anticipated. Their love, though reignited in the most unexpected of ways, was stronger than ever, filled with the kind of intimacy and connection that had once been their foundation. The years apart had only served to make them appreciate each other more, and now, together, they were learning how to navigate the complexities of their new life with grace. There were quiet evenings when Henry would find Jennifer sitting in the living room, reading a book, or just gazing out the window, lost in thought. He'd sneak up behind her, wrap his arms around her waist, and rest his chin on her shoulder. They wouldn't say anything at first. They didn't need to. The simple touch was enough to communicate everything they had both been holding in. It was moments like these, subtle, intimate, that made Henry realize how much he had missed the depth of their connection. There were times when they would simply hold hands as they walked through the park, or sit together on the porch just watching the sunset. The quiet stillness between them was no longer awkward. It was peaceful, full of a shared understanding that didn't need to be vocal. They had built something new, but at the same time they had returned to the intimacy that had once defined them. They would often steal glances at each other across the room, their eyes meeting in that familiar way, as if they were both thinking the same thing. Their love was no longer just the spark of early romance. It was the slow burn of deep affection, friendship, and passion. They understood each other in a way that no one else did, and that knowledge, that connection, was enough to make Henry's heart race. Even after all these years, it wasn't just the quiet moments that defined their relationship. It was the fire that burned between them, the passion that had never truly gone out. Their intimate moments were filled with the kind of hunger that was both gentle and fierce. They learned again how to communicate through touch, through whispered words, through the way their bodies responded to one another. They took their time, exploring each other with a tenderness that was born of years of knowing one another, but also the thrill of rediscovery. One evening, after a family dinner where they had all laughed together over the meal, the girls went to their rooms to finish their homework. Henry and Jennifer, now more aware than ever of the love that pulsed between them, found themselves alone in the kitchen. The evening had cooled, and the house was filled with the aroma of fresh bread and coffee. Henry looked at Jennifer, his eyes soft with affection, and she returned his gaze, her heart racing. The way he looked at her, like he saw her, truly saw her, with all her flaws and strengths, made her feel more beautiful than she had ever felt. He reached for her hand, pulling her closer, his thumb tracing the back of her knuckles. "Jennifer," he said quietly, his voice low, filled with the kind of desire that only time and love could create. "I don't want to waste another moment. I want to love you, in every way I can, for as long as I can." She felt a shiver run down her spine at his words. She had missed this, the closeness, the intimacy, the passion. Without saying anything, She closed the distance between them, pressing her lips against his. It wasn't just a kiss. It was an affirmation of everything they had fought for, everything they had learned to cherish. Their kiss deepened, slow and deliberate, as if they were savoring the moment. Henry's hands found her waist, pulling her closer, feeling the warmth of her body pressed against his. Jennifer's arms wrapped around his neck, her fingers threading through his hair, as she melted into the kiss, giving herself completely to him. It was a kiss that spoke of everything they had been through, and everything they were now. It was a love that was rooted in history, but alive in the present. After a few moments, they pulled away, breathless, their foreheads touching. "I love you," Jennifer whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Henry's heart swelled. "I love you, Jennifer. And I'll always love you." There was no hesitation, no fear in their voices, just pure, unguarded love. As time went on, the love between Henry and Jennifer only grew stronger. Their connection was more than just physical, it was spiritual, emotional, and mental. They were no longer two people who had been separated by life's challenges. They had become a unified force, committed to each other and to their family. Henry knew, now more than ever, that Jennifer was his partner in every sense of the word. They were raising their daughters together, providing them with a home full of love, respect, and understanding. Maya and Lily could see the bond between their parents. There were times when they would catch their mom and dad sharing a look or holding hands, and it wasn't lost on them how much love their parents had for one another. The love they shared wasn't just about romantic gestures or passionate moments. It was in the way they supported each other through challenges, the way they communicated openly, the way they forgave each other when mistakes were made. Henry had learned the importance of vulnerability with Jennifer, of sharing his fears, his hopes, his insecurities, and his dreams. And Jennifer had done the same, allowing herself to lean on Henry in ways she hadn't allowed herself to for so many years. Their home was full of life, full of the sound of laughter, the joy of shared experiences, and the love that flowed from every room. They had created a life that was theirs, a life that was not defined by what had come before, but by what they had built together. It was imperfect, messy, and unpredictable, but it was theirs, and that made it perfect. As the years continued to pass, their relationship continued to evolve. Their passion never wavered. Instead, it deepened into something even more powerful. They had learned that true love wasn't just about the intensity of their emotions in the moment. It was about standing by each other when life got hard, supporting each other's dreams, and allowing their individual journeys to intertwine in a way that made them both stronger. Henry continued to manage his company with the same dedication he had always shown, but he found himself letting go of the obsessive need to be the best, the most successful. His new definition of success was simple: a loving, fulfilling family and the opportunity to watch his daughters grow into strong, independent women. He realized that the wealth he had accumulated over the years was nothing compared to the wealth of love he had in his home. Jennifer, too, had flourished in her own career, and together they had learned how to balance the demands of their professional lives with the needs of their family. They worked side by side, tackling life's challenges with a united front, and their love was the steady foundation that kept everything in balance. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, their hands intertwined, watching Maya and Lily argue over the TV remote, Henry looked at Jennifer with a deep sense of contentment. He had everything he had ever wanted. He didn't need the world's approval or recognition. He had found his true success in the love he shared with Jennifer and their daughters. "Jennifer," he said softly, his voice full of gratitude, "this is everything I've ever wanted. A family, a life with you. We've been through so much, and yet, we've built something beautiful together. I wouldn't change a thing." Jennifer smiled, leaning in to kiss him gently on the cheek. "Me neither, Henry, me neither." And in that moment, surrounded by the laughter of their daughters, the warmth of each other's embrace, and the love that had been so patiently cultivated over the years, Henry knew that everything in his life had led him to this place. He had found what he had always been searching for: true love, in its most passionate, fulfilling, and profound form, and he was never letting it go. As time passed, the love between Henry and Jennifer grew, not only in depth but in intensity. The years of separation had taught them what it meant to truly cherish one another. Every touch, every glance, became a powerful reminder of how deeply intertwined their hearts were. What had started as a quiet spark was now an all-consuming flame that set their world ablaze with passion and desire. A passion recalled it was one late evening, long after the girls had gone to bed. The house was quiet, save for the soft hum of the wind outside. Jennifer was in the kitchen, her back turned as she rinsed the dishes. The dim light from the chandelier above cast a warm glow across her figure, and Henry, entering the room silently, couldn't help but watch her for a moment. Her hair cascaded down her back, and the curve of her body, the way she moved so gracefully, still took his breath away after all these years. He had been waiting for the right moment, and tonight he couldn't wait any longer. Jennifer, said softly, his voice deep, filled with unspoken longing. She turned toward him, her eyes meeting his, and she saw the intensity in his gaze, an intensity that made her heart race. Without a word, Henry closed the space between them, his hands reaching out to gently brush her hair away from her face. His fingers lingered on her skin, tracing the curve of her jaw, and Jennifer felt a shiver of anticipation run down her spine. She knew, without a doubt, what was coming, but she wasn't sure she was ready for how badly she wanted him. Henry's lips brushed against hers. The kiss slow at first, as if he was savoring the moment, but soon, the kiss deepened, filled with the heat of desire, the kind of hunger that had been building between them for months, for years. It wasn't just physical, it was the release of everything they had kept buried, the years of separation, the longing, the unspoken promises that had never quite been fulfilled. His hands moved to her waist, pulling her toward him, his body pressing against hers, feeling the heat of her skin, the softness of her curves. Jennifer's hands found the back of his neck, threading through his hair, pulling him closer, deepening the kiss as if they had both been starved for this connection. And maybe, in a way, they had been. Their love had always been there, but now it was like a fire that had finally been unleashed, burning, consuming, impossible to ignore. Henry's lips left hers and trailed along her jaw, down to the delicate skin of her neck, where he pressed soft, feverish kisses. Jennifer let out a quiet moan, tilting her head back to give him better access, her breath coming in shallow bursts. She was losing herself in him, in the sensation of his lips on her skin, in the way his hands moved with purpose, as if he knew exactly what she needed, exactly how to make her feel loved and desired. "Henry, you," she whispered, her voice shaky, and he paused, looking up at her. Her eyes were dark with passion, pupils dilated, her breath ragged. "I've missed you, Jennifer," he said, his voice rough. "Every part of you. I never stopped wanting you, even when I thought I had to." His words struck her like a lightning bolt. It was true for both of them. The space they had shared had only magnified the desire, the need to have each other completely. She pulled him closer, her lips finding his again, this time with even more urgency. Her hands tugging at his shirt, desperate to feel his skin against hers. Henry's hands traveled down her back, finding the curve of her hips, pulling her closer, until their bodies were pressed together, the heat between them almost unbearable. Jennifer could feel his heart racing, could feel the thrum of his pulse beneath her fingertips. It was the same rhythm as hers. They were the same now, in every way. They were tangled, not just in their physical embrace, but in their hearts, their souls. "I need you," she breathed against his lips, her hands moving to his chest, tugging at the buttons of his shirt, her fingers shaking with the intensity of the moment. "Now, I need all of you." Henry, his control slipping as the passion between them intensified, nodded, his hands working quickly to remove the barriers between them, clothing, space, time. His lips traced her collarbone, his hands moving with reverence as he undressed her slowly, savoring each moment as if he were memorizing the feel of her body, the warmth of her skin. Their kiss deepened again, fiery and insistent, as if they couldn't get close enough, as if their souls were reaching for each other, yearning to connect in a way that only love, true, raw, passionate love could allow. Jennifer's hands roamed down his chest, finding the muscles she had missed, the man she had once known so intimately. She felt the steady beat of his heart beneath her palm, and in that moment, she realized that this wasn't just about physical pleasure. This was about reclaiming each other, about rediscovering what had been lost and rediscovering the depths of their love for one another. Henry's lips moved lower, his breath hot against her skin as he traced the curve of her breast. With his lips, his hands sliding to her back to pull her closer still, she gasped, arching into him, her body shivering with desire, feeling every nerve ending awaken at the touch of his hands. "Henry, double quotes," she whispered, her voice breaking, pleading. He murmured, his lips returning to hers, kissing her deeply, as his hands moved to the sensitive part of her body that had been waiting for him. For this moment, she gasped again, her body trembling as he made her feel like she was everything to him. She was the only thing that mattered now. Their bodies moved together in perfect harmony, an intricate dance that only two people who had known each other so intimately could achieve. Henry could feel the rush of emotions flooding through him, passion, desire, and something deeper that he couldn't name. It was more than the physical act. It was a coming home. The world outside ceased to exist. There was only Jennifer and Henry, their hearts and souls intertwined as they shared this moment of unbridled passion. Every kiss, every touch, was a promise that they had found their way back to each other, that this love, this fiery, passionate love, would never fade again. As their bodies reached the pinnacle of their connection, as the world seemed to blur around them, they held each other tightly, the intensity of their shared pleasure overwhelming them both. And when the storm finally passed, they collapsed into each other's arms, breathless and spent, their hearts still racing in the aftermath. They lay there for a moment, tangled in each other's limbs, the weight of their love and passion settling around them like a comforting blanket. Henry's fingers gently caressed her hair, and Jennifer nestled against him, her head resting on his chest as they listened to the sound of their hearts beating together. "I never thought I could love you more than I already did," Jennifer whispered, her voice full of emotion, her eyes closing as she snuggled closer to him. Henry kissed the top of her head, his fingers tracing soothing circles on her back. "I didn't think it was possible either," he murmured, his voice thick with feeling. "But every day with you, every moment, just makes me love you more." They stayed there, in the comfort of each other's embrace. The world outside forgotten, and the future ahead full of promise. The passion they had shared was a physical manifestation of the emotional and spiritual connection that had been growing between them for years. Their love, once fragile and uncertain, had transformed into something unbreakable, a bond forged not only by their shared history but by their renewed commitment to each other. Henry knew in his heart that this love, the love they had discovered, again would carry them through whatever challenges the future might bring. With Jennifer, there was no fear, no doubt. There was only the promise of forever, and the passion that would burn brightly with every new day they spent together. As the days turned into months, the love between Henry and Jennifer only grew stronger, deeper, and more passionate. They had learned how to balance the delicate dance of raising their daughters with the fervent, all-encompassing love they shared with one another. Each day was an opportunity to build their family anew, to grow not only as parents but as partners, rediscovering the beauty of their connection and the joy of being in each other's arms. Their bond became a sanctuary, a place of warmth and trust. The house that had once felt cold with uncertainty now rang with laughter, shared moments of intimacy, and a profound sense of peace. Maya and Lily, now thriving with the love and security they'd always craved, flourished under the nurturing care of both Henry and Jennifer. They watched their parents' love story unfold with awe, witnessing the deep connection between them, a connection that was not just physical but emotional, spiritual, and profoundly unbreakable. The passion that had once been buried under years of doubt and heartache was now an enduring force. It wasn't just in the stolen kisses or the soft words whispered late at night. It was in the way Henry and Jennifer held hands while walking through the park, in the way they spoke to each other with understanding, and in the way their eyes met across a crowded room, always finding each other. They had rediscovered the art of love, of living fully in the moment, cherishing one another through every small gesture. Henry found that he was no longer living for the success of his company, or for the approval of others. His life had shifted in such a profound way that he no longer measured success by wealth or status, but by the depth of his love for his family and the strength of his relationship with Jennifer. Together they created a future built not on the past, but on the love they had rekindled and the life they were determined to build as a united family. Years passed, but no matter what happened, Henry knew that this was the life he had always been meant to live. His past didn't define him, nor did his diagnosis or his former fears. Love had given him a second chance, a family, a partner, and a life full of meaning. He knew that he had found something far more valuable than anything money or success could buy. And so, as the sun set on another beautiful evening, with the laughter of Maya and Lily filling the air and the warmth of Jennifer beside him, Henry realized that they had found their forever. They had written their own story, a story of love, hope, passion, and second chances. The life they had created, full of passion and tenderness, was more than he had ever dared to dream. They had made their way through the pain, through the uncertainty, and into the arms of something infinitely more beautiful. As the days ahead stretched out before them, they knew that no matter what life brought, they would always have each other forever, intertwined, forever passionate, and forever in love. And that, Henry realized, was all they had ever truly needed.